What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with another fight breakdown for a fight that I'm super excited for. I mean, we've had a great year of boxing. We had a lot of good fights this year. You know what I mean? We had a lot of drama, a lot of issues, but for the most part, we did get some good fights. And this is going to be, I believe, this is the last final card for Showtime. All right, but this is going to be a Showtime pay-per-view. I don't believe that this fight should be a pay-per-view, but at the end of the day, I am happy that we are getting in this fight, and I can't wait to see this fight. All right, Demetrius Andrade is going to be facing against David Benavidez this Saturday. I will be covering the fight live. We have a great undercard, and I can't wait, man. I can't wait for many reasons, man. So I did a couple videos on this fight weeks ago. Okay, and I gave you like a mini breakdown. And not much is going to change. I didn't give you an exact pick yet. You know, I think I was making a strong case for Andrade. And one of those two videos, I was making a strong case simply because he's the underdog in this fight. And I was making a strong case on why he would win if he is to win and how he could win the fight. You know, because that's what I like to do. I want to give you all different scenarios in all of these breakdowns, right? But I'm excited to finally see Andre get a big shot. All right. And before we get into the breakdown, let's talk about why. You know, Andre's been around for a long time. All right. He's going to be 36 in a couple months. And this is his first real big test. This is his first real test, you know, at 36 years old or 35 turning 36 years old. This is his first big test. And, you know, it's a shame because there should have been fights leading up to this, right? And these are two guys that people feel that are two fighters that people feel that Canelo has been ducking. One for a long time, that's Andrade, and then one more recently has been David Benavidez, right? And when it comes to Andrade, there's been so many fighters that his name, that's been attached to him over the years from 154. You know, the Charlo twins, Landy Lara, Matt Korobov, Canelo Alvarez, Billy Joe Saunders, and even recently Zach Parker. You know what I mean? Janovic, even him. You know, there's so many fights that could have happened at some point. Some his fault, some not his fault. That we didn't get, that we could have gotten over the years. You know, I'm talking about showing up at press conferences and stuff, seeing these guys face to face. It's been a lot of talk over the years and a lot of fights that never took place. You know, and he's moved around, he's changed. They offered him deals with Rock Nation, and they had a Showtime deal offered him. Then he went over to Eddie Hearn in Matchroom, didn't really work out, made money, left there, and now he's back on Showtime. And he's at the end. You know, he's getting closer and closer to the finish line. You know, maybe. I don't want to talk too soon. And yes, age is a factor, you know, because he is getting up there. But some of the best fighters are up there in age as it is. You know, look at Beterbiev. He's 40. Look at Terrence Crawford. He just won his biggest fight, and he's Andre's age. You know what I mean? So you never really know. You don't want to put everything into age. But, you know, certain fights make certain fighters step up their game. You know, and with how many fights he got here, I know it's like 30 something, maybe 32 or something like that. I had it up a minute ago. 32 fights, no losses, no draws, 19 knockouts. All right, with all of those fights, this is the biggest test, and it could be a problem for him because you're fighting a really aggressive fighter, a volume puncher, a guy that's very big and durable, you know, and quick and has good counters and stuff. So I wish he had fought some of these other guys first to prepare him for this kind of fight, but he didn't. We could only break it down based on what we know at this point. You know, as far as Benavidez is concerned, it's a big test for him too. You know, he just had his biggest test, and he passed the test against Caleb Plant. But this is a different fight, and even though both of those guys are like considered to be slick fighters, like Plant and Andre are both slick fighters, but they do it totally. They have a totally different approach. There are some similarities there, I guess, because of the defense. You know, they both are pretty good on defense. I think Caleb is better than Andre defensively, but offensively, I think Andre is he has much more to offer than Caleb Plant. You know, but the thing with Andre is he hasn't been at the division long. He just started in his last fight with Demond Nicholson. All right, he's been a mostly career 160 and 154 pounder. You know what I mean? So this is his second fight there, and he hasn't even really been that active. You know, the fight with Demond Nicholson kind of came out of nowhere. He signed with Showtime, and they threw him in there as, you know, stay busy tune-up fight for him. All right, but Benavidez, going back to Benavidez, man, you know, his name has been in the running the most with Canelo recently. You know, there's been a lot of fighters that people want Canelo to face over the years. But most recently, especially since Canelo picked up all of the titles in the division while Benavidez didn't have one, a lot of people felt that move that Canelo did was in a way he jumped on the opportunity while Benavidez wasn't champion. You know what I mean? Benavidez had lost him the scale. He's lost it to marijuana, lost it on the scale. So he had the title twice, and he lost it twice, but not in the ring. You know what I mean? And that's not Canelo's fault. That's nobody else's fault but Benavidez. But since then, Benavidez has been a little bit more active. He's been more focused, and he's coming off of his best win and his best performance, in my opinion. All right. Key things though, Benavidez hasn't fought a southpaw in 7 years. All right. He hasn't fought since Douglas years ago, back in 2016. And I was able to go back and rewatch the fight. The two fights that I mainly did was the Douglas fight, which was back in 2016 when Benavidez was 19 years old. Now, remember, the thing with Benavidez, started out young as a pro, which normally means not that many amateur fights. You know, so he wasn't like no stellar amateur or anything like that. He kind of came in right away at a young age and started fighting, you know, having pro fights. And was fighting solid opponents for years. And Dennis Douglas was one of the fighters he fought. And that was a southpaw, and it was a tough fight. Douglas is a tough fighter, you know what I mean? But it's not that he is not on a level as Andre, is that he did bring some intensity. It was a competitive fight. But the problem is with Douglas, I think when I went back and watched the film study for that, is that Douglas didn't use the ring like the way Andre would. You know, Douglas was aggressive at times. He did put his punches together well. You know, we did get the combinations and stuff. And he didn't really back down from Benavidez until he was forced to. But Andre is a guy that is going to move more. You're going to get more pot shots from him. You know, you're going to get combinations as well. And you're going to get dog out of Andre as well. But I think Andre was a much more smarter fighter than compared to Douglas. But that was many, many years ago. And even though Benavidez still has some of the bad habits that, you know, that I mentioned in the Caleb Plant breakdown, I think he's just better. You know, he's much better than what he was 6 years ago at 19 years old. You know what I mean? 6-7 years ago. So that's what I did. You know, for film study, I watched the Douglas fight, obviously, because Douglas was a southpaw. And I rewatched the Caleb Plant fight. You know, I think those are the two fights I went back to specifically and studied. And then for Demetrius Andrade, you know, I bounced around a little bit. You know, I watched the Demond Nicholson fight, which is his most recent fight. You know, I watched the Liam Williams fight specifically because Williams is the only guy that I felt like came close to matching the volume and pressure to Benavidez. But he's not nearly as good as Benavidez. Like, Benavidez would destroy that guy. You know what I mean? But, you know, Williams is a puncher. You know, he does come forward. He's extremely aggressive. We've seen that in the Eubank fight. We've seen that in the Andre fight. But that's the only thing you can really go based on, because there's not many opponents there for Andre that you can compare to Benavidez. You know, even going all the way back to 154. You know, at 54, Martirosyan was the toughest fighter. At 60, I would say maybe Williams was the toughest, or Jack Coquet. I think that was at 54, but it's just nothing there to compare to Benavidez. So this is what makes the fight a 50-50 fight, because when it comes to like comparing styles of what these two have faced, there's not much in common. Andrade doesn't really have anyone on his resume that compares to Benavidez, in my opinion, right? Like Liam Williams is the closest, and I think there's a gap in talent between those two, right? And then when it comes to Benavidez, there's no southpaws there that's going to give you that same slickness and give you, the combinations and stuff like that. So it was really difficult to prepare on how this fight is going to go. But I've made a decision, and I actually it's another one of those fights that it's been a hard year of making picks this year, because it's another one of those fights where I've been back and forth, So let's talk about Andrade and what he brings and what he needs to do in order to win. Andrade, again, southpaw, knows how to use range, likes to use the ring. Key things about Andrade: good lateral movement, good feet positioning. I think he has great angles, great combinations. Likes to change levels a lot. You know what I mean? Again, controlling this is a key thing. Good jab, good timing. Solid power, not a huge puncher, and great conditioning, right? But the thing is with Andrade, he's always been in control in every single fight he's been in. I haven't seen him under real pressure. I've seen him take good shots. I've seen him struggle a little bit. I think Coquet was probably the most closest fight he had in his pro career, right? That I've seen. His Coquet was the toughest, but Coquet is very tricky. You know what I mean? He's like Sergey Derenchenko, like how he was against Triple G. Just real tricky, difficult to get the timing off, stuff like that. But I haven't seen him in a fight where he wasn't in control throughout the whole fight. And, now you're going to be getting pressed, and you're going to be forced to move in a lot more. But it's something that I think he can handle, but for how long? And I think here, Andrade, he can adjust. He can fight different ways. He can turn into a straight dogfight, or he can move and pot shot and just time and counter, work behind a counter if he wants. He can fight off the back foot, he can do all of those things. So that's a good thing. You've even seen him switch a little bit, He can do all of these things. But again, now you're in a fight at 35 years old where you're fighting a guy that's in his prime, that's bigger than you, that it probably hits harder than you, that throws much more than you, and also has great conditioning. So when Andrade starts to slow down, I don't want to say, excuse me, let me choose my words wisely. I don't want to say fade, because Andrade has never faded. There's periods where he's slowed down, where he's picked it back up. You know what I mean? I think in the Stylistic fight is one of those examples where he started to slow down a little bit, but he'll pick it back up. He'll take certain rounds off, and he'll push forward again. You know what I mean? I haven't seen him completely drained before. Like, I think Plant going into the fight with Benavidez, we knew that Plant will drain in the later rounds because we've seen it several times before. We know when he gets drained, the defense, which he's so good at, starts to slip a little bit. You know what I mean? So when it comes to Demetrius Andrade, we just don't know how he's going to look later in the fight. But one thing about Andrade, and I think what he needs to do in order to win this fight, is he's going to have to change the pace a little bit here. All right. And I feel like I don't want to sit here and say that he has to be perfect, but he has to be near perfect to win. Everything got to work out for him. Like, I don't know what the game plan is, but I think it has to do a little bit of don't start the fight rushing Benavidez like he has in the past. Andrade is one of the best starters of a fight that I've seen, or actively fighters. Some guys, they need a couple of rounds to get it together. They need to fill you out a little bit. Andrade comes out blazing fast. He unloads on you in the first 2 rounds. Then before the third and fourth round where he slows down a bit, maybe the fourth round. Those first 2-3 rounds with Andrade are always going to be tough for anybody. I think in this fight here, Andrade needs to change the pace a little bit, and he needs to spread it out, because we know that Benavidez is his strongest in the later rounds. He lets guys get burned out a lot later. I think with the exception is the Plant fight, where I think in a Plant fight, he was being aggressive since the opening bell, but he had issues landing because at that point, Plant is fresh defensively, and like maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 of those first 6 rounds, Plant was sharp. You know what I mean? So I think Andrade needs to take a different approach where you have to be aggressive, but you have to keep moving, and you got to learn, don't do anything for too long. You have to keep constantly switching it up for David, right? So if you're going to turn into a dogfight, if you're going to throw some combinations, right, getting that mid-range, you're going to throw some of those combinations before moving back out, do it, but don't do it too much. This is not Demond Nicholson where you can keep stepping in, boom, 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 and then move. It's not going to work that way with David, because David can counter you. All right, David has a mean left hook, so you got to get all out of there. You want to become predictable with the timing and the combinations, because you can get caught in between the punches. Another thing is, too, big on pot shotting. Got a great left hand, right? Knows how to measure it, knows how to time it straight down the middle. Set it up with the jab, boom, straight left, right down the middle. The thing is, he's going to have to move, which he can do. He can move while still using the jab. So throw that straight left, but do that thing he does. Throw the left, duck underneath the counter, and then escape and move out of dangers. He's going to have to pot shot more than he would like and move. How long will that hold up? I don't know, because David, pretty good counter puncher. You know what I mean? He's going to counter. And not only that, David has improved on his jab. All right, so David is probably going to be, and I'm going to get to David in a minute. David is going to be timing him and counter him with the jab, or, throwing the jab out there before Andrade. Andrade keeps his hands low. So whatever jabs he's not slipped in, he's going to get punched in the face with it. You can see it a lot in the Demond Nicholson fight. So Andrade needs to keep changing the pace as the fight goes. And also, yes, he needs to tie up, but you don't want to over tie up like the way Plant did, because it was cool in the earlier rounds where you would step in, throw a punch, and then tie up. But there was a point where Plant was throwing a lot less, and he was relying too much on clinching. And at that point, David would start, he would start being more physical, right? And fighting himself out of the clinch, creating space, boom, boom, hitting them with combinations. Even though they weren't super, super clean, it was still affected. And based on the judges looking like you being an aggressor. So even though you might not be landing, or David might not be landing clean, he's going to be the aggressor in those points. And I think he's a bigger, stronger fighter. If it becomes a complete dogfight, David has the advantage. He's more durable. He's more of a volume puncher. Plus, he wants to be close. He's not a control the distance kind of guy. He can fight that way. I've seen him fight that way. But recently, he's been more coming for and putting the pressure, especially in the later rounds when you're already tired. So for Andrade, it's all about pacing himself and just constantly changing whatever it is the strategy is. You cannot, whatever you're doing that's working for you is not going to work throughout the entire fight. And it may work. Like, listen, if you could keep moving for 12 rounds, like the way that you have, we've seen you do in the first half of the fight, yeah, it might be possible. But against David Benavidez, I don't know. It might have worked against Liam Williams and Damon Nicholson and all these other guys you face. But will it work for David Benavidez? I don't think so, because David is coming for blood. So we'll have to wait and see. As far as David Benavidez, man, I had to go back and watch my own breakdown to talk about the countless technical flaws that David has, you know, when it comes to his feet, you know, him being too squared from too far out, you know, just the high guard and how he uses it. There's a lot of flaws. He's the least technically sound fighter out there. One of the least technically sound elite fighters out there. Let me say that, right? But this is why it might not make as much of a difference whether he's fighting a southpaw or not. You know, because his approach is to shoot the jab, you know, or shoot the straight right hand, lead with the right hand, and then get in position to throw the combinations. You know what I mean? He likes to be close, mostly close range, or maybe mid range to throw the combination. But he steps in, he has his high guard up, and now he's ready to throw. The thing is, David, defensively, flawed. He's very easy to hit. You know, his only way of defense is really the high guard. If he doesn't slip a shot and get in, the high guard is there, but it's there momentarily. Once he's in, he steps in with it, and then once he gets ready to let loose, he's throwing hooks. You know what I mean? And when he's throwing hooks, as he's feet side by side, he doesn't throw the hook with the free hand up. So you can hook with him and catch him. But with David, up to this point, he hasn't fought a fighter that could really, really capitalize on it or can really hurt him. You know what I mean? And I still believe, you know, with Canelo, when it comes to Canelo, I still think Canelo has the best chance of beating him, simply because Canelo has the power. He can not only expose your flaws, but he has the power to hurt you and make you pay. I don't know if Andrade has the power to really hurt David, you know. So I think Andrade can trade hooks with David at times, because he's going to keep that free hand up, whether it's going to be his right or his left. But, you know, David, you know, he comes in, boom, and then now he's ready to throw his combinations every single time. And it could become a little bit predictable. I think it's not what David does. It's not really about what David does. You know, we know what David comes and brings to the table. The main thing about David that makes him so dangerous is that you can't stop him from coming. You know what I mean? And once he is in a good rhythm where, yes, you still catching him with some good shots, you're not slowing him down. And what I noticed from going back and watching the Dennis Duggan fight, or even some of those fights in between, right? Like Darrell or whatever. You go back and watch those and then go and watch the Plant fight. Unlike the Plant breakdown that I did, there were a lot of questions that I had leading up to that fight about David. I do believe that David was way more aggressive in a Plant fight, was better at cutting off the ring. You know what I'm saying? He was better at applying that pressure. And even though Plant had good defense and he was able to get out of the way, he wasn't getting hit flushly with a lot of those shots, David was still unstoppable. And I do think that David is better at cutting off the ring, which is not a good thing for Andrade. You know what I mean? Compared to what he was in previous fights. I've seen his previous fights, you know, and some fighters had an easier time with using a ring than Plant and probably Andrade will have. They are preparing, and they know that Andrade is going to try to move. I'm sure they know that Andrade is going to start fast, you know, and Andrade is going to use the ring. You know, I'm pretty sure that they're going to prepare for that, because they've had to prepare for it before. Let me get some water. Hold on. Yeah. So David, What David has to do, start the fight out, let Andre get off. I don't know. Again, I don't know if Andre is going to come out unloading very early. But David, work behind the counter. You know what I mean? Use the jab, work behind the counter, set up the left hand, the left counter hook, and just take it easy. Don't take it easy, like don't just be getting touched up and getting dominated early, but don't put everything into your earlier rounds, because Andre is the older fighter. Andre hasn't fought someone that's nearly as aggressive than you. And wait into the later rounds. Yeah, fight, pick up some rounds. But I'm not going to sit here and tell him to do something that is unrealistic. We know he has defensive flaws. We know that he likes to square up, and sometimes, his feet positioning is wrong and stuff like that. He's not technically sound fighter. What he beats you with is with pressure and volume, and being that he's so durable, if Andre can't hurt him, I don't know what Andre is going to do as far as later on down the line when he begins to have tired again. I started this with Andre he's used to having, and this is how I'm going to end the video. Andre is in the past was used to having things his way. He could still have it this way with this fight, because I think I think he's probably the better talent. But would it matter fighting the bigger fighter? You just got to super middleweight. You just got there, and now you're just now fighting the best fighter you've ever faced in your career at 35, almost 36 years old. You're just now getting that. This is a huge gap, and you're watching bigger fighter, all of that stuff. You're used to having it your way. You might have it your way early, but David is in cruise control early. He's just trying to figure you out. He's going to bring some pressure, but it's not going to be as intense as it will be when you start to slow down. So the question is, will Andre give us 12 rounds of great boxing? Is he going to keep moving laterally for 12 rounds? He could. It's possible, but will it happen? We got to wait and see. I think it's more likely for David to hurt Andre than the other way around. Andre, not a huge puncher, but a good puncher. But he's fighting the most durable fighter he's fought in his career right now. So what does Andre got to do to win? Keep moving. Keep countering, pot shotting. All right? Those throwing those combinations without taking too much damage. Can he do it? It's not really that likely. David, who I think is improved with all his flaws, the experience that he has, and I haven't seen him slip when it comes to like stamina and stuff like that. I think he's more focused now. He's been more active. I think it's his time. And even though I would love for Andre to win, because it's been so long, the logical pick is David Benavidez, just because he's going to be the aggressor in the later rounds, and I can't see Andre winning any more than 2 rounds, maybe 1 or 2 rounds at the end. I think there's going to be a couple of rounds where he's going to pick it up, but David may be too much. I always thought if David won, it would be by stoppage. But I'm kind of leaning towards the decision simply because I was wrong with the Plant fight, and I think that even if Andre is struggling, I think he would be able to survive, but it's a possibility that David might stop Andre simply because Andre is more likely to let his hands go. I think even when he's retreating, I think he's still going to be fighting, and that could be a good and bad thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I have to go with David. I'm not extremely sure on how, by stoppage or decision, but I have to go with David. I think Andre could win and could outbox him, but it's going to be tough, man, to be that consistent against a guy that is so strong and throws so many punches. Even if you're making a miss and you're countering him and you're making him look clumsy, how long can you do it before this guy really gets to you? You know what I mean? It could be close. I can see it even being kind of controversial. If it goes into a decision, I can see it being a split decision or a majority decision. You know what I mean? I can see it being a draw because they don't want to give either fighter a loss. I can see all of these things happening. There's so many possibilities here. I think the only possibility that I don't see happening is Andrade knocking him down or knocking him out. But I wouldn't even be surprised if Andrade is able to hurt him, because David kind of walks into shots. All of these are possible. I don't expect a knockout for Andrade, but I could see him winning on points. But I could see David winning on points or by KO too. All right, but I got David winning. That's my final pick, man. I've been back and forth for a while, but I'm going with David as far as the prediction. David's going to win this fight. I think if Andrade gave me a little bit more as far as like how to select this, like I need to see something a little bit more than what I've been seeing. And looking at the Damon Nicholson fight, looking at the Williams fight, I think Andrade's going to be at his best, but I think David's going to be at his best too. And David's coming off his best win, which is Caleb Plant, who I think, even though I think this is a tougher fight for David, Plant, that performance against Plant told me more about him than Andrade's fights. I don't know where he's at when he's not in control. That's the question. We'll see. We'll find out Saturday, but I will be here doing commentary. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm out of here. Y'all have a good one. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day. I'm thankful for you guys, first of all. Thank you for just supporting the channel over the years. And I'm out of here, y'all. Y'all have a good one. Peace.